When music meets power, the world doesn't just watch, it listens. But when a global Afrobeat superstar like Davido makes a bold political move on a continental stage, it doesn't just make headlines, it makes history. In this gripping fictional tale soaked in Pan-African symbolism and raw political tension, Nigeria's beloved artist Davido does the unthinkable. He boards a private jet not for a concert, not for an awards show, but for a meeting with a leader the West calls controversial and the youth call revolutionary. Burkina Faso's president Ibrahim Traoré. There, beneath the hot sun and thundering applause of thousands, Davido doesn't just take selfies and smile for the cameras. He does something that shocks the entire continent. He opens his heart and his wallet. With the world watching, he gifts Traoré a jaw-dropping $1 million, publicly and proudly, in support of youth empowerment in the new Burkina Faso. The act, bold and beautiful, was meant to inspire. It was meant to uplift. It was meant to say, Africa for Africans, unity over division, youth over corruption. But in the corridors of ASO Rock, it sparked envy, it exposed insecurities, and it triggered a silent political war. At the center of that war was President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Old Lion, who saw in Davido not a musician, but a rival to influence. What followed was a storm of fake headlines, character assassination, and state-backed intimidation. But Tinubu wasn't ready for what came next. From the shadows of Nigeria's online activism rose a voice even louder than his, the controversial, fearless, and brutally honest Very Dark Man. This is the fictional story of how one artist's Pan-African love lit a fire, and how even a president couldn't put it out. Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, had never seen such energy. News had leaked, whispers became posts, posts became trends. And then the videos confirmed it. Davido's private jet was on final descent. The people erupted. From school children to market women, motorcyclists to retired soldier Severi One rushed toward the airport, phones in hand, screaming the name of the Nigerian superstar who had defined a generation of African sound. As he stepped off the plane in a simple but stylish agbada embroidered with green and gold, the cheers became deafening. Davido smiled, lifted both hands in a peace sign, and walked toward the welcoming committee. Behind him, his entourage wore t-shirts with the words, "One Africa, one youth, one voice." But what happened next turned a cultural moment into a political earthquake. During a nationally televised youth empowerment rally held in front of the Burkina Faso presidential palace, where thousands had gathered under banners of unity and progress, Davido took the mic. He paused, looked out over the crowd, then turned to face President Ibrahim Traoré. "Africa needs more leaders like Traoré," Davido declared. "I came here not just to visit, but to support. I'm gifting $1 million to help empower the youth and support the new Burkina Faso." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then the eruption. The crowd went wild. People wept. Others fell to their knees. Twitter story: X crashed in West Africa for 2 minutes. Number Davido in Burkina trended at #1 globally for over 6 hours. Influencers, fans, and Pan-Africanists celebrated him as a hero. Commentators called the move a cultural reset, an act of defiance, the beginning of a youth-led revolution. But as the celebrations soared in Ouagadougou, dark clouds began to gather back home in Nigeria. Inside the opulent walls of ASO Rock Presidential Villa, the mood was sour. President Tinubu watched the entire broadcast in silence from his media war room, the smile on Davido's face, the standing ovation from Burkinabe youth, the endless retweets. It gnawed at him. His aides stood silently around him, unsure of how to read the growing storm in their boss's eyes. Then, finally, he spoke, his voice low and bitter. "He's making us look weak," Tinubu muttered. "Imagine a singer showing more leadership than the president." The room tensed. You could hear a pin drop. One of the younger aides, perhaps foolishly bold, stepped forward and said, "Sir, the youth are celebrating Davido's move more than any government initiative." Tinubu slowly turned his head toward him. His stare was ice. Then he said quietly, "Get EFCC. We need to start looking into him. Find something, anything." That was it. The order was given. And with it, the quiet war began not just against Davido, but against what he represented: youth empowerment, African unity, and power outside the state's control. Within 48 hours, the headlines began appearing like clockwork, carefully planted, strategically released. First came the whispers, then the tweets from faceless burner accounts. Then, full-blown tabloids. Davido's mysterious $1 million. Where did it come from? Is Davido secretly funding African coups? EFCC to investigate source of Davido's donation? The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, issued no official statement, but the internet noticed something different. Davido's managers were being contacted by strange people. Surveillance vans appeared outside his Lekki studio. Journalists reported leaks that seemed too coordinated to be accidental. Still, Davido refused to flinch. On Instagram, he posted a single story with white text on black: "Love always wins. Na God dey run my matter." His fans erupted with support. His streaming numbers skyrocketed. International blogs defended him. African artists like Burna Boy, Tiwa Savage, and Stonebwoy posted messages of solidarity. But the real explosion came from someone nobody saw coming: a lone warrior with a phone and a mouth that spared no one. His name was already feared in high places. Very Dark Man, the digital gladiator known for calling out hypocrisy, corruption, and social injustice without filters. And now, he had chosen his next target, the Tinubu administration. In a viral 10-minute monologue titled "They're Afraid of Davido's Light," he stared straight into the camera, fury in his eyes. So, because Davido gave a fellow African president $1 million, now EFCC is suddenly investigating him? Where were you when politicians were looting trillions? Davido is promoting African unity, and you're promoting jealousy. The video hit 3 million views in 24 hours. But he didn't stop there. Every evening, Very Dark Man went live exposing what he called the shameful, desperate tactics of the Nigerian elite. Una wan use EFCC fight person way they build Africa? If you touch Davido, now you go collect. He named names. He dropped receipts. He exposed shell companies and backdoor government deals that had nothing to do with Davido. His energy was contagious. The movement swelled. Artists, civil society leaders, and even quiet opposition voices began echoing his words. Hashtags like #HandsOffDavido and #VeryDarkManSpeaks flooded the web. The tide was turning. Tinubu, for the first time in months, felt the heat not from international press, but from his own people. And all this began with one man, one flight, one gift. Enraged by Very Dark Man's influence, Tinubu's allies attempted to silence him. There were attempts to deplatform his pages. Paid influencers began dragging his name online. But it was too late. The narrative had shifted. Nigeria wasn't seeing Davido as a musician anymore. They saw him as a patriot. Protests began in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. University students wore shirts that said, "I stand with Davido. Music is not a crime. $1 million of love, not loot." 6. The turning point. A leaked phone call changed everything. In a conversation allegedly recorded between two political aides, a voice identified as a high-ranking EFCC official admitted, "We were told to find anything, even if we have to invent it." The audio went viral. News channels picked it up. Tinubu's government issued a denial, but the damage was done. That same night, Davido posted a video from a studio surrounded by children in Burkina Faso. He said, "They tried to turn love into controversy, but love doesn't break, it builds, and we're building a new Africa, one act of kindness at a time." Pressure mounted on the Nigerian presidency. International media questioned Tinubu's priorities. Why investigate a man for giving when billions were missing from government accounts? Eventually, Tinubu had to back off. No charges were filed. EFCC withdrew. But the political damage was permanent. A satirical cartoon in a major newspaper showed Tinubu trying to pull Davido down, only to fall into a ditch labeled "Shame." Very Dark Man posted, "Game over, you messed with the wrong one." Davido returned to Nigeria like a hero. At the airport, thousands welcomed him. Journalists flooded his team with questions, but he smiled and said, "Let's focus on love. That's all I'll say." He later launched the Unity Africa Foundation, focused on youth empowerment across African countries, with the initial $1 million as seed funding. Burkina Faso named a street in his honor, Avenue Davido Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré called him a son of Africa's promise. Music, power, and legacy. In a continent struggling with broken politics and stolen futures, Davido didn't just sing "Hey Stood." In the face of envy, he remained calm. In the face of political threats, he inspired. And when it all ended, he was stronger, loved more, and more influential than ever. He didn't respond with hate, he responded with hope. This story reminds us that no matter how dark the system gets, light will always win. So if you believe in unity, music, and Africa's future, share this video, like, and subscribe. Because this is only the beginning. Africa is rising, and Davido is singing the anthem.